I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. The MAGA right-wing echo chamber is spiraling out of control right now after a very predictable thing happened, which is that Kari Lake lost her lawsuit challenging the election results of the 2022 Arizona governor's race. Now, any legal observer talking in good faith would tell you that not only was Kari Lake going to lose, but she was likely going to be sanctioned because her claim was utterly frivolous. And as we watch the proceeding take place on the remaining 2 counts that the judge didn't dismiss, he dismissed 8 of 10 counts, but allowed 1 count regarding the printer tabulation, illegal printer tabulation that was being asserted by Kari Lake to go to at least an evidentiary hearing, because you have to accept the allegations as true in a complaint. And the other allegation that went to this evidentiary hearing was a chain of custody violation asserted by Kari Lake. And as we watched the proceeding, we knew it was even more frivolous than we expected. Yet, if you were following any of the right-wing echo chamber stuff taking place on Twitter or taking place in other social media platforms or on all of the right-wing podcasts taking place, they were acting like they were winning and they were crushing, and they've got these experts out there who were exposing things. They were exposing nothing. They weren't even talking about the central evidence that was needed, which is what the judge pointed out in the judge's order. And in the judge's final order, the judge says, the court does not find clear and convincing evidence of misconduct. The court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct was committed by an officer making or participating in a canvass. The court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct was intended to affect the result of the election. The court does not find clear and convincing evidence that such misconduct did in fact affect the result of the election. And Kari Lake's people were not putting on evidence. Instead, they went down this rabbit hole about how there were 20-inch papers, but actually the ballot was 19 pages, and that there was some nefarious conspiracy over the 1 inch, even though that had nothing to do with anything that this case was supposed to be about. And so it's utterly frivolous. The court invited sanctions in the court's motion, the court's order, rather. It invited a motion for sanctions to be filed by Katie Hobbs' lawyer by Monday, December 26, 2022, in order to reply later in the day by Kari Lake's lawyers. I definitely think that Kari Lake's lawyers, or Kari Lake, is going to be sanctioned for this. But now, Kari Lake made the following post on her social media platform. Let me read it for you, what she said. She goes, "My election case provided the world with evidence that proves our elections are run outside of the law. The judge did not rule in our favor. However, for the sake of restoring faith and honesty in our elections, I will appeal his ruling." This is more gaslighting by the right-wing MAGA extremists here when she goes, "My election case provided the world with evidence that proves our elections are run outside of the law." Literally, the finding by the judge in the case was that there was no evidence on every single element. There was no evidence that there was any intent. There was no evidence that there was any misconduct. There was no evidence that anything occurred with an officer or a director or someone at a level needed for the claims to be proven. Literally, on every single element, there was found to be no evidence. So when you go, my case provided evidence, it actually did the opposite. The case was frivolous with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. But here's the danger when the right-wing echo chamber perpetuates these big lies over and over again and feeds this disinformation to its base. Here are some of the comments that these people are posting who are supporters of Kari Lake. Here's one post from someone named Mike Davis who goes, "There's clear evidence Kari Lake would have won, but for Maricopa's utter incompetence. At best, that led to mass disenfranchise of GOP voters on election day. Imagine the proper outrage if this happened to black voters in Democrat precincts." So again, they try to conflate these issues. They try to make it like a racist issue as well. And then they go on to say there's clear evidence. The judge found there was not clear evidence. And by the way, when you say disenfranchisement of GOP voters, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, the defendant in this case, they're Republicans. They are Republicans. They are the GOP. I know the MAGA extremist conspiracy theorists now have overcome the GOP, that is now what the Republican Party is. But the Arizona Maricopa County Board, they're Republicans. It is led by Republicans here who are just not going along with the Kari Lake MAGA extremists, conspiracy mules, and that there was a tampering with printing machines on purpose and printing 20-inch versus 90. They're not going there. You know, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors held a free and fair election. They held an election, by the way. Was there a printing error that may have occurred sometimes? There are things that happen all the time. It's fixed, it's addressed, and Kari Lake lost the election because she's a horrible fascist candidate. That's why she lost the election, because Arizona moderates, Arizona Republicans, Arizona independents, Arizona people who are not affiliated with political parties joined in a coalition and said, we want a normal candidate. We want a normal governor. We don't want this ridiculousness of Kari Lake. Here's what another person said. Imagine hearing Maricopa admit to breaking the law, tampering with ballots on election day, and ruling for them anyways. What a clown, right? They attacked the judge. So now the judge is in on it. The judge is a Democratic operative. What a clown. None of those things that you say happened. Maricopa County did not admit to breaking the law. They did not admit to tampering with ballots on election day. You see, all of this right-wing MAGA garbage extremism, they are getting their disinformation from the same sources that are reporting these things with little bits and pieces of transcript and not telling people what's really going on. And so they end up writing these things like, oh, it was admitted. It was absolutely not admitted at all. And again, any fair legal observer would say this was an utterly frivolous lawsuit. Here's what someone else wrote. Huge shock. Elections are meaningless. You can blatantly cheat and get away with it. See, that's what MAGA extremists are trying to do. Undermine the integrity of elections. Make people just completely disenchanted with democracy, the process of voting in general. It's all a conspiracy when their extremist candidate loses. They got other people. Keep fighting. This should go to the Supreme Court. All the people behind this scam held for treason. Now they talk about treason and that the Republicans in the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors should be tried for treason. It should go all the way up to the Supreme Court. If it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, you're going to lose there. You're going to lose in every aspect because this is an utterly frivolous lawsuit. And now this person attack the judge. This person skipping 2 BC, 17 fraud, whatever this is. Are there any real judges anymore? The evidence was beyond obvious. It was beyond obvious that it was a frivolous lawsuit. Here someone goes, judge is a coward. This was a slam dunk case. WTF. Here's another one. We the people must fight to take back our country. Keep fighting. If we let them keep getting away with this, we are no longer a free country. You know, people like Kari Lake, they want to take away our freedoms. They want to make sure that free and fair elections don't take place. They are spewing this conspiracy garbage. They are injecting this disinformation into the veins of their cult followers when any objective person who watches and observes these proceedings would say that they weren't even talking about the key issues that were essential to their claims. That's why the judge found there to be no clear and convincing evidence on any of the elements. Go back to 2020. That's why these 70 plus federal judges who heard all of these frivolous, weird cases and sanctionable cases that Donald Trump filed, they said there's no evidence for any of this. In courts of law, we require evidence. And there's absolutely no evidence for any of the allegations that are being made there. And then we go to Mojave County, go to Mojave, where Abe Hamadeh filed his lawsuit, where the judge said there was no evidence there. Go to where Mark Finchem filed his lawsuit, the Arizona candidate, MAGA election denying candidate for Secretary of State. Same thing. There's absolutely no evidence there. There's no evidence that these people are presenting. They're not talking about what the elements of the claims are that they are asserting. That is why they are losing. That's why they will continue to lose. And that's why they're just perpetuating these lies over and over again. And we got to call it out here. This is humiliating. This is embarrassing that you have now this MAGA Republican Party that just continues to lie and lie and lie and just completely gaslight. You know, I was watching for the first time, I hadn't seen this special before, but there's this BBC special, How Saddam Hussein Came to Power. It was done a number of years ago. It's actually pretty well done. But you want to talk about the manipulations on elections. You want to talk about how the anti-democracy, how people's rights were taken away, that's exactly what MAGA extremists want to run. The big lies here are just so big. They are just so completely untethered from reality here that it's just beyond shocking that that is being endorsed by the other major political party right now that's just gone full-fledged fascist. But we'll keep calling it out here every single day on the MeidasTouch network. So again, a big day for justice, though. It's great that Kari Lake lost, that Abe Hamadeh lost, that Mark Finchem lost, all the election deniers lost. In our court of law, you need actual evidence. And it's not just that every single judge is against MAGA candidates. It's that the judge is following the law. The judge is following evidence. We are a country founded on the rule of law, and MAGA extremists want to undermine the rule of law, gaslight Americans, and perpetuate their vision of a fascist Putin-esque state. And we're not going to let that happen here at all. I'm Ben Meiselas. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers. Thanks to your support. And in addition to hitting the subscribe button, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We have lots of exclusive content you could only get on patreon.com/MeidasTouch. But most importantly, help grow this independent media platform, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.